January 30th, Hamilton, Ontario, USA versus Canada. What promises to be an absolute classic of a World Cup qualifier. Let's talk a little bit about it, because it's coming right up. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and follow me on Twitter, and we'll get this video started. This is a huge game. It's number 1 against number 2 in the octagonal standings, and the US and Canada already met once this qualifying. It was back in Nashville on September 5th, and it was probably one of the low points of qualifying for the US. Along with the Panama game, this was probably the low point. After failing to get the win in the opening game against El Salvador, the US came into the first home game really needing to get a win, and Canada just made things really frustrating for the US, sitting back, bunkering, parking the bus for pretty much 90 minutes, made things really hard. The US were frustrated. Alphonso Davies had a moment of magic, which made the score 1-1, and the US could only get a point out of the home opener against Canada. And Canada have been one of the surprises not only of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, but of World Cup qualifying around the world. Canada haven't made a World Cup since 1986. They haven't even made this final round of qualifying since 1998. They'd never played on the road in CONCACAF before this cycle, and now suddenly they're being able to go down to places like Honduras and just walk away with an easy 2-0 win. Places like Honduras, where they were 10 years ago, they were being beat up 8-1 in crucial qualifiers. Now they're just going down there and easily taking the 3 points. So before we talk about Canada, let's look at the US, look back at the El Salvador game, and see how the US could line up for this game. The US did not have the best of performances against El Salvador. It was pretty uninspiring, though the US dominated the game with more than 3 expected goals to El Salvador's 0.17. Well, the US ended up only getting 1 goal out of that. Jesus Ferreira missed a couple of sitters and had a pretty poor first half, though he did end up getting credited with the assist on what turned out to be the game-winning goal from Anthony Robinson. But a lot of important players had pretty bad games. Pulisic had one of his worst games in a national team shirt and was really frustrated as he was subbed off early. The aforementioned Jesus Ferreira had a pretty bad game. Weston McKennie had some good moments, but it was not his best outing. Serginho Dest was not super productive in the final third and was also a little bit frustrated. Chris Richards and Walker Zimmerman as a center back pairing weren't bad, but they weren't spectacular either. The substitutes made very little impact on the game. Brendan Aronson came on for Pulisic and was pretty good, but other than that, the substitutes Zardes, Morris, they didn't really improve the team much at all and just don't look like they're ready to be in the national team right now. And it's not their fault that they're out of season and they're being called up. Maybe they shouldn't be here right now. They shouldn't be in the national team when they haven't played a competitive game since November or October even, but it is what it is. So this is how I'd like to see the US line up. So for goalkeeper, it has to be Matt Turner, with Zach Steffen's status still uncertain. And by the way, if there are any changes to statuses of players, this is being filmed a full 2 days before the game. So if there have been any changes since then, you'll know why. But Matt Turner is the goalkeeper. He is off for Arsenal. He is headed to Arsenal, but I think he'll be the starting goalkeeper once again for pretty obvious reasons with Zach Steffen still out. The center back pairing, I think Richards and Robinson is our A pairing right now, at least in my opinion. I don't know if Berhalter sees it that way. I don't know if Zimmerman is still his top choice center back, but for me, Richards and Robinson, I'd love to see this pairing. Richards, again, it wasn't his best game on Thursday against El Salvador, but he's still definitely up there with Robinson as our best center backs, and he's been phenomenal for Hoffenheim, and he's actually in season. Miles Robinson was, I think, pre-rotated for the first game. That's why he didn't play, but I don't know. Does Berhalter actually think that Zimmerman passed him in the center back depth chart? That's pretty interesting. So we'll see what happens with the center backs. That's definitely a position to watch. Something that's maybe a little less interesting is the fullbacks, because Anthony Robinson was spectacular in the last game. His best game in a national team shirt. Not only did he get the game-winning goal, which is one of his strengths, just kind of showing up in the right place at the right time at the far post, but he had a complete performance. Defensively, he was spectacular, and honestly, he was one of the only players in this team who was just giving every single thing. He was just showing up. He was even showing up on the right side sometimes, which maybe he shouldn't be doing because he's left back, but he put in some good crosses. Not all of them at the target, but it's fine. He had a very good game overall. Serginho Dest didn't have his best game, but with the other right back options being Reggie Cannon, DeAndre Yedlin, and God forbid Brooks Lennon, I don't think Serginho Dest is going to be sent to the bench for this game, especially against Canada. He's got a good record against Canada. Well, he did get injured the last time he played Canada. The time before that, he was spectacular. Man of the match performance, was just running circles around Alphonso Davies, who won't be there this time, but that's fine. The midfield, I think, was just going to have to be MMA again, in part just due to lack of other options. The other central midfielders in the squad are Luca De La Torre, who is best as an impact sub and is relatively unproven, but that's partially due to lack of opportunities. And then Christian Roldan and Sebastian Lletget shouldn't be getting any minutes, realistically. So Tyler Adams had a pretty good game. Hopefully he gets the armband back. I mean, I know what you're going to say. We'll get to the wingers. But Tyler Adams has to be the captain of this team. I know Pulisic is Captain America and he's been around for long, but Tyler Adams has to be the captain of this team. He's more of a leader on the field vocally. He's just more of a leader in the locker room than Pulisic. It has to be Tyler Adams. Weston McKennie, as one of the 2-8s, is in the form of his life right now. He'll have a monster game for sure. And Yunus Musa as well is in some of the best form he's been in for Valencia, and he had a pretty solid game. He completed 98% of his passes against El Salvador. That is a ridiculous stat. All right, now the elephant in the room, the wingers. I didn't put Christian Pulisic in the lineup. So Christian Pulisic did not have his best game against El Salvador. He was frustrated. He just wasn't releasing the ball at all. He barely completed any passes. Brendan Aronson came into the game and was much more impactful, though he didn't really get much productivity out of it. He just looked a lot more lively. Timothy Weah, by the way, is a lock starter at the moment. Unless he's not match fit to start because he's coming back from injury. That's the only reason he wouldn't start, because he's just been phenomenal. He's been lights out in the last couple of qualifiers for the U.S. But I had Brendan Aronson starting over Pulisic. Pulisic just looked frustrated, and Christian, and this is something that's been frustrating me for a while. It's not 2017 anymore. Your teammates are not Alejandro Bedoya and Jorge Villafana anymore, okay? You can pass the ball. Don't just dribble, and lose the ball because you feel like you're pressured to do that because your teammates aren't good enough. Like, the teammates around you, you can pass to them. When it's Timothy Weah and Weston McKennie and Yunus Musa and Anthony Robinson, he just needs to pass the ball. Because if he can do that and he can get a lot more involved in the link-up and combine, and he doesn't need to be in the middle of the field. He can stay out wide and create from the wing. It's not 2017 anymore. Christian, if you want to help this team win, you need to be a bit more of a team player. And that's not something I thought I would have to say about Pulisic. But I just feel like he still feels like he has that burden of being the guy when we have 11 guys on the field who are all capable of stepping up. And my striker is Ricardo Pepi. He didn't get a single minute against El Salvador, but I think he's the number 9. Now, if Pulisic starts, that's fine. I just want to see a better performance. I love Pulisic. He's still my favorite player. He's still the best player on this team. Until Gio Reyna comes back, arguably. And Weston McKennie is in incredible form. But Christian Pulisic is the most talented player on this team, for sure. He just needs to show it for the national team. He just needs to perform in these World Cup qualifiers. Because so far, other than that 15-minute cameo against Mexico, he has been awful in every single qualifier he's played for the United States in 2021 and 2022. Ricardo Pepi's my 9. He's just our best 9, and Zardes and Jesus are not it. Jesus, he technically got an assist. He just wasn't that good in the game. I don't know. Jossie Zardes was just a non-factor. Like, he did nothing. He missed a couple chances. That's about it. So this is my lineup for the U.S. Let's talk a little bit about Canada. So actually, maybe I should have put someone other than Alphonso Davies because he's out, but that's the elephant in the room. Alphonso Davies is out for Canada, and that's a big loss for them, but this is a Canada team which is more than capable of stepping up in the absence of Alphonso Davies. They got to the Gold Cup semifinals without Davies and really pushed Mexico for 99 minutes without him, and without Jonathan David as well. And against Honduras in the last game, they dominated. They won 2-0, though maybe Honduras were a bit hard done by. Honduras did have a lot of good chances. I don't know what the XG was on that game. Honduras maybe a bit better than the scoreline would suggest, but Canada still were, with relative ease, swept aside a Honduras team, which, yes, they're out of sorts, but at the same time, San Pedro Sula is not an easy place to play whatsoever. They went in there and won 2-0 with some really good performances. John Herdman's a great coach, and he's done a lot with his Canada team a lot of talented players, but not a deep squad. So I'm really impressed with what he's done with Canada and how he's somehow gotten them to first place in these qualifiers with 5 games to go. Here's a possible lineup for Canada, and John Herdman is notoriously difficult to predict what he's going to do, but this is the best I got. I think it'll be the 3-4-3, which is what they used for most of the qualifiers. It's what they used against Honduras. Milan Borjan, the goalkeeper. I think the back three, Alistair Johnson's going to start for sure. He can play right back, he can play center back, and he's been really good lately for them. Stephen Vittoria in the middle of that three, and then Kennedy as the left center back. Though, we could see like a Kamal Miller get into this, and I don't think Derek Cornelius will, but he's another option they have for that position. But yeah, Kamal Miller is probably the most likely other guy who could sneak into this three. Now, Stefano Eustachio is a question mark. I think he will probably be available, so at the time of recording, I'm assuming he will, and I'm putting him in the lineup, but we don't know for sure. If not, I assume Marc-Anthony Kaye would come into the lineup instead, or Samuel Piette from Club de Foot Montréal. But Eustachio is the most important player on this team, alongside Alphonso Davies. If Eustachio is not here, Canada's a significantly worse team. That being said, they still won in Honduras without Stefano Eustachio. But the new Porto signing, he just signed for Porto in recent days, he's recovering from COVID. So we don't know if he's going to be available, but he can play as a 6 or as an 8. He's kind of their answer to a Tyler Adams with regards to his importance to the team and how he kind of holds that midfield together. Next to him is going to be Atiba Hutchinson. He's really getting up there in years. He actually debuted for Canada the same year that I was born. Like he's been playing for Canada my entire life, and he's still going strong, and he's the captain, and I assume he will start. Richie Laryea has been one of the breakout players of the last couple months for Canada. He just signed for Nottingham Forest for $2 million, and I think he'll just be the right wing back. Tajon Buchanan can play either side at wing back, either side on the wing, can probably even play as a 9 or as a 10. I think Tajon Buchanan, there's no way he doesn't start. I think he'll be the left wing back, but there's a lot of places on the field he could play. So Laryea came off the bench against Honduras, which is why I think he'll definitely start. Buchanan might come off the bench. I don't know for sure, but he's just looked like he fits already at Club Brugge, just signed for them. Front three is also hard to predict. We don't even know if it's going to be a front three. It could be a 2 with adding a third midfielder. And I do actually have kind of someone who's primarily played in midfield as one of the front three, and that's Jonathan Osorio from Toronto FC, who came off the bench in the last game and was really good against Honduras in the minutes he got. So, having watched that game, I think Jonathan Osorio might have earned a starting spot. He also did score at the Azteca, so he's clearly been a big game player, so I have Osorio starting. And Kyle Larin has been great for Canada. He scored both goals against Mexico. He scored against the U.S. in Nashville. He's been in the big games turning up, so I think he'll start on the left side of that front three. Of the trident up top, right in the middle, I have Jonathan David, the best player on this Canada team with Alphonso Davies out. And he's just been great for Lille. He's been phenomenal. Like there's not much else to say about it. He's been one of the top goal scorers in Ligue 1 and is maybe going to be going to a team like Arsenal soon. I know Arsenal's not a big team, but there are big teams like PSG that are also interested in him. So we'll see where Jonathan David ends up, but he is probably the best striker in CONCACAF right now. Probably above Mikhail Antonio, above Raul Jimenez for sure. So yeah, I think this Canada team right now is the second best team in CONCACAF behind the US, but playing at home in Hamilton on turf in the wintry cold with the home crowd, this is a very dangerous Canada team, and they're a team that can beat anyone in this region, as they've shown throughout all of World Cup qualifying. So how's this game going to play out? As I said before, John Herdman is notoriously difficult to predict. How is he going to approach this game? There may be some mind games with Berhalter. These two have spoken to each other a lot. These two know each other very well, and they've gone up against each other 4 times before. And that's 2 wins for the U.S., 1 win for Canada, and that 1 draw in Nashville. So this is a very competitive rivalry here between these two coaches, and Herdman's probably the better coach. But let's see what Berhalter has in store to try and counter that, because Herdman, he could sit back like they did in Nashville, sit back, soak up the pressure, and then try and hit the U.S. on the counterattack through Tajon Buchanan primarily. But without Alphonso Davies, that's a lot more challenging. You don't just have that pacey, strong, quick, incredible dribbler on the wing that can just beat a guy like DeAndre Yedlin, because Yedlin probably won't be playing. It'll probably be Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson as the fullbacks, who are significantly better than Yedlin. I think the U.S. tends to turn up against better teams. The U.S. is going to be looking for revenge from that game in Nashville, which was incredibly frustrating. You could see the frustration in the American players' faces, like Pulisic, and specifically Brendan Aronson, who in the post-game interview was just like, he was even talking about how frustrated he was with how they weren't trying to play soccer. They were just trying to sit back. Will Canada have another concacaf approach? Because they did out Honduras in Honduras. They were going up to the old concacaf tricks that Canada, who are new to this, it's like they're experts already. I don't know how it's possible. We're expecting temperatures in the mid to low 20s in Hamilton, which is colder than the game in the U.S. against El Salvador in Columbus, but it's worse because the field isn't heated, I believe. And the stadium, from what I've been told, is incredibly windy because there's only stands on the two sides. There's not stands on the ends, so it's like a wind tunnel. So that's another thing to keep in mind and consider. There's going to be a lot of wind, and it may be 22 degrees, but because of the wind, it's going to feel like it's going to be in the low teens, potentially. And I know normally I like to give a prediction, but I'm going to forego giving a prediction for this game. Honestly, I don't think this is a predictable game in any way. There are so many ways this could go. Canada could come out and Herndon could just outcoach Berhalter. For all I know, the U.S. could just come out and dominate Canada. This is an impossible game to predict, and we're going to have to look forward to seeing it. But hopefully, the U.S. can get a huge 3 points in Hamilton. So let me know what you think about this game. Who should start for the U.S.? Should Christian Pulisic start? Or should Brendan Aronson come into the lineup? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, like the video, and subscribe. I will see you guys after the game. Au revoir.